Hey folks, this is Kalani. The War Within expansion is almost here, and it'll be introducing a whole bunch of new features and systems that you've probably heard of time and time again. Warband, delves, the new raid, the dungeon changes, all that wonderful stuff. But with so many updates, it's hard to keep track of everything, and some changes will definitely fly under the radar. But fear not, we've put together a list of lesser known changes that you might not know about, but will end up being very important or impactful as we head into the new expansion. So we're going to go through 23 small but amazing changes that you really need to know about. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. First up on our list is a pretty big change to the character select screen, and I know most of you probably know about the actual screen by now. We get this cool new campfire environment for 4 of our favourite characters to hang out in. The dev team have confirmed that we'll be able to earn new scenes and environments to change up the screen, by the way, so that's really cool, but it's not the change that I want to highlight. Whenever you hover over a character in this new screen, you are given way more information now than ever before. Obviously we can still see each character's name, level, class, zone and faction, but if you hover over them you'll also be able to see which realm that character is on, what specialization they are currently using, which professions each character has, as well as how much gold they are currently carrying. So if you want to find out where all of your gold has been stashed away, you can see which character is holding the most from your character select screen, so you don't have to log in to everyone to see where the gold is. You can also find your professions easily just in case you forgot which character was leatherworking and which one was tailoring. It's a really cool change in my opinion, and we might even see more info added as time goes on. There's also a new search bar on the character select screen which lets you quickly look for any specific character you might want by searching for specific identifiers, so you can search for classes, names, factions, professions, or even the zones that the characters are logged out in. So maybe you just want to look at your Death Knights or your Hunters, or log into your Leatherworker or your Miner. The search bar lets you quickly find the character you want without having to scroll through your entire character list. This is obviously going to be particularly useful to players with a lot of characters, but the new character select screen also combines our cross-server characters together in this one screen, so it doesn't matter what server each character is on, you'll be able to see all of them together on this same screen. So it's also going to be great for anyone who has characters across multiple servers, because everyone's character list is going to be quite a bit busier moving forward. Moving on, we have quite a few new options relating to the in-game camera and how you can keep track of your character. To start with, there's a new option that reduces the sensitivity of the camera's collision with environments. Right now on live servers, if pretty much anything gets in the way of your camera, it's going to zoom in front of it, squishing your view into your character's backside. This can be quite annoying in dungeons or raids where you kind of need to see around your character to avoid those deadly swirlies. That quick camera movement can be quite jarring, and in rooms with poor camera angles and close scenery it can also be quite claustrophobic. This new camera option reduces these kinds of situations and lets the camera get obstructed more often, so your character can actually kind of hide behind environments now, which makes for a much smoother camera experience. I will definitely be turning this on as soon as I can and keeping it on until something better comes along. Another cool new option that will help you keep track of your character while using this less collision camera is the silhouette feature. If you turn this on, whenever your character becomes obstructed by the environment, you'll get a shadow or silhouette of your character, so you shouldn't ever really lose yourself in the environment, which is a great little addition that helps the new collision camera actually work. If you just totally lost sight of your character, you might not actually want the collision turned off, right? You want to be able to see where you're actually going, so the silhouette lets you keep track without the annoying jerky camera movements, so I'll definitely be using these two options as we head into the War Within. Now, if that wasn't enough to help you keep track of where your character is, there are also going to be some new self-highlight options that you can toggle on or off. So you can give yourself a little circle around your feet, you can give your character a yellow outline, and you can even put a star icon above your head. This might get a little confusing because it's the exact same thing as the star raid icon right now, but maybe they'll create a unique icon for this specific option sometime in the future. You can use as many or as few of these options as you like, whatever you need speed to help keep track of where you are in a clump of players, whether that's PvP arenas or battlegrounds, dungeons with all those trash mobs gathered around, or in raids. So between the lower collision camera, the new silhouette option, and these self-highlights, you shouldn't ever lose where your character is in the War Within group content. Another pretty large user interface change that you'll probably notice rather quickly is a big overhaul of the icons that we'll see on the world map. Almost everything has changed, from quest icons to dungeon and raid locations, world quests and events, bonus objectives, even rares. Thankfully, you won't have to learn all of this from scratch by yourself. There's now a map legend that details exactly what each icon is, so if you ever wonder what icon you're looking for, just pop open the legend and it's all there. We're also going to see quite a few new icons for things like delves, so our maps are going to be pretty busy moving forward. So I guess it's a good thing that we'll also have a better filter to show and hide whichever activities or icons you're actually interested in. So if you want to focus on something specific and reduce your map clutter, you can just turn off all the stuff you don't want to look at right now. You will also be able to super track way more things than you could previously. If you're not sure what I mean by super track, you know how when you're doing a quest and you can highlight a specific quest and you'll see the little golden diamond in the world that shows you where you need to go? That's called super tracking, apparently, and you'll now be able to do it with more than just quests. So whenever you open your map, you can click on almost any icon here to super track that location to help you find it without having to double check your map every 30 seconds. So if you want to be led straight to a flight path that you don't know, you can do that. If you want to be led to a delve entrance, super simple. The same goes for almost any icon on the map, so getting around is going to be much easier with the ability to super track almost anything you want. There are some nifty changes to the quest log as well, starting with a new checkbox option to help you easily track and untrack the quests you're interested in and the ones you might want to save for later. So you don't have to shift click them anymore or right click and stop tracking, just check or uncheck the box. It's much easier to see at a glance what is being tracked, and then you can find quests you're interested in much faster. Another great addition for the quest log is a search bar. If you don't want to go scrolling through your entire quest log to find the one quest you're looking for, you can just search for it. You can search for quest names, zones, or just any part of it that you can remember. Being able to search your quest log quickly is a nice little quality of life addition, and I'm glad to see them expand this kind of thing. The War Within also brings us a new spellbook look, and your spellbook will be found alongside your talent window, which leaves the profession window just for professions now, so that's kinda cool. Everything is a bit more spaced out in the new spellbook, which makes it easier to see all of your talents and passives. It's about time we had an update for these pieces of the UI. If you aren't a fan of the larger window, which takes up pretty much the same space as your talent window, so it is quite large, if you prefer something smaller, you can minimize or maximize it up at the top right, so you can use whichever size you would prefer. There's also a button to hide your passive effects if you're just wanting to look at your actual active abilities or spells too. We will also see yet another search box, this time for the new spellbook. You can search for exact names, partial names, or just effects that talents or passives could interact with. So if you're ever looking for something specific but don't want to actually search through your spellbook, we have yet another search box to speed that kind of thing up. Now before we move on from the talent window / spellbook window, we're also going to have way more talent loadouts to play around with in the War Within. Up until now we've only had 10 saved loadouts for each character, not a lot when you want to start tinkering around with minor changes for dungeons or raid or PvP, but that's being increased up to 40 for the War Within, so we'll have a lot more freedom to save talent loadouts with small changes without having to rely on add-ons to get around that pesky limit. Something else you probably know about by now is the new Warband bank, but what you may not know is that you can set up this bank just like a guild bank with the same kind of filters and options. So you can pick icons to better keep track of what goes where, you can set filters, so one tab can be for profession materials, another one can be for gear and equipment or consumables, and there's even a junk tab. You can also set tabs to be ignored for cleanup if you want to keep one organized quite specifically, and if you set filters for your tabs, whenever you use the deposit all warband items, it will put them in the right place, so you can keep things tidy without even really trying. There's another very useful function that the Warband bank can provide you with that a lot of folks still don't know about. All of your characters on your account have access to your Warband bank. That's kind of the purpose, but it's not just access to withdraw or deposit items. You have full access to your Warband bank through your professions as well, so you can craft or create items with materials and reagents in your Warband bank without needing to withdraw them. This is going to be amazing for anyone who has multiple professions spread across their characters. Instead of having to mail the specific items to the right character, you can just pop everything into your Warband bank and all of your characters can craft straight from that central storage location. It's going to make keeping up with professions much easier. All of this is going to be made so much more useful when you also add the Warband distance inhibitor into the picture. This item allows you to remote access your Warband bank from anywhere, so it doesn't matter if you're in the middle of nowhere or in the middle of a raid or wherever else that doesn't have a bank close by. You can remote access your Warband bank on a 4-hour cooldown, and there should also be some ways to reduce that cooldown as we play through the expansion. You can acquire this item by completing a quick questline in Gadget Zone, so everyone will have access to it very early on. Another very interesting change related to professions are how enchants are going to work. They're going to be a bit smarter in the War Within. Whenever you try to enchant a piece of gear, either from the enchant itself in your enchanting profession window or by using an enchanted vellum, it will automatically open both your character pane and your bags, and it will actually grey out anything that is not a valid target for the enchant that you're trying to use. So you don't have to sort through items to find the one you're looking for or remember what enchant you're trying to use. It just makes it easier to quickly enchant your gear. There's also a neat little visual when you enchant something, which is a nice addition. A bit of a random change that could make this expansion a lot more comfortable for some folks is the new arachnophobia option. When you toggle this on, almost every spider-like creature will be turned into a crab-like model instead. So if you really cannot stand spiders, this could take the edge off as we work through an expansion that will deal with a lot of spiders. The entire last zone is basically a huge spider nest, but you can turn it into a crab nest if you prefer. Some of the models probably won't look as up-to-date or cool, but the option is there. We also have a few interesting PvP changes, starting with a new lever in all arenas. This lever allows you to signal that you are ready before the timers have expired. If everyone signals that they are ready, the match will begin immediately. So if both teams set up quickly and don't want to wait for the timer to run out, you can start the match whenever you're good to go and you won't have to wait quite as long. This could actually save you a lot of time if you're playing a lot of arena matches. Those minutes add up over time, and if it's wasted because everyone is ready to go quite early, that feels even worse. So now you can skip over the getting ready portion of arenas as long as everyone is actually ready and pulls that lever. Another very useful PvP change comes along with the Warband system. Quite a few currencies are now transferable across your Warband, so you can send them to whichever character on your account you want to. This includes the honor currency with a slight limitation. You will lose some honor when you transfer it to an alt. I think this is supposed to be about an 80% conversion rate, so you lose 20% whenever you transfer honor to another character, but the math seems a bit weird depending on how much honor you're trying to send. Just know that you won't be able to send all of it across, which is a bit of a shame, but usually you will run out of uses for your honor currency if you're an avid PvPer, so being able to send that across to an alt to help them gear up or buy some other useful items with their honor will be a great change for anyone who likes to play multiple characters in PvP. Over on the dungeon side of things, there are some very important small changes that you may not have heard about. To start with, heroic and mythic difficulty dungeons will actually be seasonal moving forward. If you're not sure what this means, when the expansion launches, we will get 8 new dungeons. All of these dungeons will be available on normal mode, so you can still play through each new one whenever you want, but our seasonal dungeon rotation only includes 4 of them. So when Season 1 starts up, these are the dungeons that we'll have access to for heroic difficulty or higher. This will be the first time that non-Mythic Plus Keystone dungeons are limited to the seasonal rotation, but this is actually a good thing in my opinion. In Dragonflight, for example, you could do all 8 Dragonflight dungeons on Heroic, then move up to Mythic 0 with the same dungeons, but then when you hop into Mythic Plus, the dungeons are suddenly different. This change allows you to learn and get used to the seasonal dungeons on those lower difficulties, which should hopefully make the jump up to Mythic Plus quite a bit easier. That's not the only big change for dungeons. Mythic dungeons used to be on a weekly lockout, but in the War Within they will be on a daily lockout just like Heroic dungeons, and that's going to vastly increase the gearing opportunities we have from the Mythic dungeons at the start of the season, and with the huge dungeon changes that we saw in Season 4 of Dragonflight, Mythic dungeons will be more lucrative as well. So not only do we get crazy good gear just for running Mythic dungeons, so no affixes or timers or anything like that, but we'll be able to run every dungeon every day, so it's going to be a great time to be a dungeon-oriented player in the War Within. And then a curious change that will probably become important as you start to gear up is that DPS-centric trinkets will have different values depending on your role. I know it's been very common for tanks and even healers to pick up DPS trinkets when they feel like they don't need any extra tankiness, health, self-sustain, or extra healing. If your role-appropriate trinkets aren't really needed or useful, or is sometimes just not good, popping on a DPS trinket can help you clear through content a bit faster. That might not be quite as ideal in the War Within, as both tanks and healers will get 33% less effectiveness out of any DPS trinkets or even DPS related special effects from items like weapons and rings. Basically, you don't get quite as much bang for your buck by equipping DPS items anymore, so keep that in mind as you're starting to gear up in the new expansion. But that's our list of 23 small but very important changes you need to know about, so that's it for this video. Was there anything in this list that really stood out to you as super useful or important, and is there anything you think players need to know about in the War Within that wasn't in this video? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can find links in the description or click the join button just below the video. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful in any way, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you're always kept up to date. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.